turned off, apparently.
Want me to put this in a neutral spot?
That's got a fun reset. I don't need it until here.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. The time is 7:30. This is the regular City Council meeting for November 22nd. Clerk, can you please do a roll call?
Councilman Bliss,
I'm here.
Mayor Pro Tem Corbett,
Here?
Councilman Fleming,
Here.
Councilor Rohrbach, Councilman Soltis,
Here.
Mayor Greifstein.
I'm here, thank you. Can I please have a motion to excuse Councilor Rohrbach? She did give notice.
Your Honor, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you. Motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against say no. Motion carries. Councilor Rohrbach is excused. The invocation this evening and the pledge will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Corbett.
If you please rise. In lieu of the normal invocation, I'd ask for a moment of silence in the memory of our friend and colleague, former colleague, Mr. Robert Gettings. A moment of silence. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening?
Your Honor,
Ms. Corbett?
the only thing is I'm going to need some help. I lost my little note to myself. Where do you, we need to put into the agenda this evening a motion to declare vacant the seat formerly held by Robert Gettings on the City Council. Where did you want that put?
D3.
A3?
D.
D3.
D3, report.
D.
I'll get the hearing check. And to the spot D3, Your Honor. So moved.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Your Honor, I'll second.
All right, thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, just for clarification for the audience, due to Mr. Gettings' passing, we need to legally declare his seat vacant, and so we have added it to the agenda. And with that, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against say no. Motion carries. Thank you. First up, we have meeting open to the public. So this is the opportunity for members of the public to come and to speak. Ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you could identify yourself, a name, business, any affiliation with the city. Appreciate it. And with that, it's open to the public, please.
Good evening, Council. Toya Aaron, 29596 Tawas. I want to first give my condolences to the passing of former council member Bob Gettings. He was a really great guy. I recall when my son first met him at an MHCC meeting, Jordan came home, or when I came home, I should say, Jordan ran to me and said, "Mom, guess what?" I said, "What?" He said, "I know an actual councilman. I know Bob Gettings." I said, "You do?" He said, "Yeah. Isn't that cool, Mom?" And I said, "Yeah, that's cool, Jordan." So it was really nice. But I'm standing here asking, has there ever been any thought or ideas about putting up a deer crossing sign? I have came around Hales twice within the last few weeks, and a deer was crossing the road. And I'm traveling, it was about 6:40 in the morning, so it was still dark outside. And because I know the area, I know to, slow down a little bit, but for someone that probably don't, and these deers are just jumping out there really quick, if we can just consider something about putting up a deer crossing paths, because they're getting a little rough now. And I also want to say, thank you to DPS on a wonderful tree lighting ceremony tonight. It was really great. I enjoyed myself. Great job, DPS.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wanted to make a comment this evening?
Hi, Jennifer Zmarzlik, 649 East Harwood. I was volunteering for the Arts Board today, and I was astounded at how efficient everything was run. Our table was ready to go. We put our stuff on it, and everything was done in a half an hour. It was fantastic. So I just want to congratulate the DPS and all of the volunteers. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wanted to address council this evening, public comment? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close this portion of the meeting, and we're going to move into communications. We have two. The first one is the city auditor's PLANTE MORAN, the financial audit presentation.
Do you want me to introduce?
Please.
We have a PLANTE MORAN auditor, Lisa PLANTE here, and Keith Szymanski, who are going to present the results of the audit from June 30th, 2021. The slide presentation as well.
Thank you. Good evening. And we, of course, would also want to express our sympathies on the passing of Councilman Gettings. So again, Lisa PLANTE, I'm an audit partner with PLANTE MORAN and lead the audit process for the City of Madison Heights. Keith Szymanski is with me here today. He is a senior manager who's also worked with the city for many years, so we're glad to oversee the audit process. There are a few different things that you would have received in your packet, one of them being a more lengthy 80-page document that's the comprehensive financial report. And we will not go through that in great detail, but of course that is the document that's put together by your finance department. And then our responsibility is to come in and audit what's contained therein. And really our contribution to that is really just a 2-page letter at the beginning of the financial report that indicates that we conducted our audit and that the results were that everything contained in that financial report is fairly stated and materially correct in accordance with all of the governmental accounting standards that would be applicable to a city such as the City of Madison Heights. And so that's referred to as an unmodified or a clean opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide, and again is an indication that the information that's contained therein is stated as it should be. Beyond that, I will hand it over to Keith, who will go over some financial highlights and trends that we've noticed, again, in lieu of going through every page of that document. Keith?
Good evening. The first few slides we're going to go over are some history of the general fund performance in 2021 compared to previous years. So starting here with the 5-year history of revenue for the general fund. Total revenue for 2021 was $34.5 million, which was up approximately $4.5 million compared to 2020. As you can see, property tax revenue is the largest source, makes up about 59 or 60% of total revenue, and that increased 8% compared to the previous year. So that's a slightly larger than normal increase for the city, and it's made up of a combination of increases in taxable value throughout the city, as well as a slight increase in the millage rate. The second largest revenue source for the last year are state and federal sources. Typically, this is just state shared revenue from the state of Michigan, but 2021 also includes $2.3 million of coronavirus relief funds that were received. Federal revenue passed through the state of Michigan to the city of Madison Heights. So that accounts for the majority of the increase in revenue from 2020 to 2021. Next slide is a 5-year history of expenditures. The total of $31 million was an increase of just over $430,000 compared to 2020, about a 1% increase. As is typical, public safety is the largest category of expenditures, making up about 58% of the total, and that percentage has remained consistent throughout the last few years. So as you can see, overall, there have been no significant increases in the last year or even in most categories in the 5-year history shown here. So council and management really have done a great job of monitoring and maintaining costs at relatively stable levels over the years. The next slide pulls together those first two, puts general fund revenue side by side with expenditures. So in 2021, you can see that revenue did exceed expenditures, which led to an increase in fund balance. The actual increase was about $3.6 million, and that does include the $2.3 million of coronavirus relief funds. The tricky part with the timing of those funds we received from the state is that the awards were made early in fiscal year 2021, so late in summer 2020. But what was actually eligible for reimbursement were primarily costs that were incurred in fiscal year 2020. So it creates a little bit of a timing difference. The expenditures were incurred in 2020, but the revenue couldn't be recognized until the award was received in 2021. So that accounts for a lot of the surplus you'll see in 2021. We've also graphed the target minimum fund balance for the city, and that's set at 2 months of operating expenditures plus debt service for the next year. So that minimum would be about $6.2 million going forward, and the actual unrestricted fund balance was about $13 million. And so it is important not just to maintain the minimum target fund balance, but some additional reserves as well for items such as capital needs, legacy costs, and potential decreases in taxable value. And in particular, those future capital needs are particularly important going forward to 2022. There were some projects originally planned for the current fiscal year that were deferred until 2022. And the city's also building up some savings in the general fund for the upcoming Civic Center construction project. So this is usually the point in my presentations where I comment that the current results for the last year were positive, but there remain some long-term challenges ahead. And so while there are still some outstanding legacy cost liabilities that we'll talk about, the city has made really tremendous progress in improving these funding levels over the last few years. So that really is a credit to the city for making some difficult decisions and making adjustments where possible, as well as additional contributions into these plans to improve their funding levels across the board. And so having that money set aside in the trust, particularly over the last year, allowed the city to take advantage of very strong investment performance, particularly over the last 12 months or so. So we have the 4 plans graphed here. The first 2 are the pension plans, and then the 2 retiree healthcare or OPEB plans. The first plan is essentially fully funded. The general pension plan is 99% funded following the issuance of the pension bonds in 2016, as well as receipt of about $5 million in investment income in the last year. The police and fire pension plan is 56% funded. That was a fairly significant increase from 47% the year before. And this is now the only plan that, as you can see, has a somewhat large liability still outstanding of about $41 million. But then the 2 retiree healthcare or OPEB plans are now essentially fully funded as well. And that's due to a combination of changes in benefit terms, and in particular in the last year, mirroring the offerings to retirees to those that are currently available to active employees. So the general OPEB plan is overfunded. It's 115% funded, and the police and fire OPEB plan is 95% funded. And that one in particular had a $32 million increase in the last year due to both investment gains, changes of benefit terms, and some changes in assumptions. So this is somewhat of a moving target. The city benefited over the last couple of years from strong investment performance, but should there be a change in the market, that could sway the liabilities to go the other way. So these plans that are right at fully funded status would then become slightly underfunded. So it's important to keep an eye on this, and this doesn't mean that you're done funding these plans. Current employees are still earning future benefits. Assumptions could potentially be adjusted going forward. There are required contributions going forward, but the city really should feel great about the progress that's been made in this area in the last few years. And then lastly, we close with one slide on the water and sewer operating results for the last year. So we have operating revenue side by side with operating expenses, and for the last year, the expenses did exceed the revenue by about $439,000. It is worth noting here the city receives about $900,000 in the form of a property tax millage to pay drainage debt. That millage revenue is considered non-operating, so it's not included in the graph here. And overall, the cash balance and the net position did decrease by about $1 million over the last year, but that was planned on the city's part. So the city has been keeping a close eye on reserves, making sure that there is still enough on hand for emergencies, future capital, and debt service, but at the same time has been intentional about spending that down a little bit before considering raising the rates. So overall, very strong performance, happy to deliver the good news. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lisa to discuss the end of audit letter.
Thanks, Keith. And so, again, kind of a overall positive message, but still, as usual, caution to be very careful about longer-term goals and considering longer-term planning when considering the fund balance and the funded status of retiree health care and pension benefits at June 30 of 2021. As Keith mentioned, in addition to the financial report, you should have received a packet that's our end of audit communications. It comes in 2 sections, and I'll cover the first one, which is really the required communications, about how the audit process went. And so the unmodified opinion tells you that the numbers are correct, but really doesn't tell you how the audit process itself went. And if we had any additional findings in the course of our audit process to report to you. So within section 1 of this audit communication is where we'd report any significant audit findings or unusual things that came up in the course of our audit. And really, there's not much to report there. The audit process went as planned according to the timing and the scope that we would have communicated at the beginning of the audit. And in addition to that, there were no material adjustments that we encountered in the course of our audit that we would have proposed needed to be recorded. So again, that gives you an indication of the condition of the financial records throughout the year, and that a good close process was done in order for us to do our audit work. So that's certainly something that we're pleased to report and is a testament to the hard work of the finance department to keep things in good shape, close out the balances, reconciliations at the end of the year, to have a clean starting point for the audit. Really, from a accounting perspective, there was only one new accounting standard that was implemented that required slight changes in presentation. Probably not anything that requires a 10-minute discussion here tonight, but we're happy to talk about that if there's questions. It was GASB Statement 84 that really just dealt with presentation of certain collections that the city makes on behalf of others, such as property taxes, requiring those to be reflected as a cash inflow and outflow, which was not required previously, and some other subtle changes like that. But again, not anything that was a significant change to the results or the methods of presentations. So all in all, we would say the audit process itself went very smoothly, and again, appreciate the job that was done to prepare for the audit this year. Really, that covers all of our comments for the evening. Happy to open it up for any questions on the financial statements or the results of the audit.
All right, thank you for that. Are there any questions from any council members, anything?
Your Honor?
Please.
Just actually, for me, it's going to be an unusually short comment. This is usually when I take off on my rambling 20-minute discussion of indebtedness issues, but not tonight, because I think, in all honesty, over the last 18 months, 2 years, the council sort of took a step back from getting too frisky with our budgeting and our goal setting, because we didn't know what was going to happen to the economy coming out of the COVID situation. Still don't know now that we're on the subject, but I think we've generally held our own. I never thought I'd see the day when I thought $90 million worth of indebtedness, unfunded mandate, I forget whatever the term is, you can always correct me on, look good on paper, but I guess it's as good as we can hope for the moment. So I'm generally very satisfied with the way everything has gone. As far as I can tell, Ms. Marsh and Finance Department has done an excellent job, and hopefully we can start to move forward now and start to do some of the goals that I know Council's interested in doing. So thank you very much. You guys do great work.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Your Honor?
Mr. Schultes?
Real quick, if you can compare our legacy costs with other cities that you do auditing, where do we stand in that lineup?
Certainly rising very highly to the top, especially with the retiree healthcare funding. That's been a difficult one for many local units of government to carve out of their budget. Those that have achieved funded status, close to what Madison Heights has of being nearly fully funded, have often done it with bonds like you did with the pension plan. So they still have outstanding debt for that. But that's not the case with your 2 retiree health care plans. So you've managed to get there both by increasing the assets, benefiting from investment gains, and bringing down the liability by some of those changes in benefit coverage. So particularly with retiree health care, I think it's fair to say 100% status is best in class. The pension plans are very well funded. We typically see averages now 65% and up, so for 1 year to be fully funded, and the other to have a very strong funding percentage also puts you ahead of the game compared to most others.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Your
Any
Honor?
other, please?
Just one quick question on a very small line item. The interest line item drops significantly, it seems. You know, it was, what, 541? And I know with the market conditions you had mentioned doing really well. What's kind of causing that?
So the city itself, the general fund in particular, is very limited by state law of what it's allowed to invest in. It has to be very, basically risk-free type of investments. So for that reason, when overall interest rates are very low, as they were, right after the onset of the pandemic, the Federal Reserve immediately lowered interest rates. That immediately lowered what you were interested in earning on your savings accounts, essentially, which is where the general fund money is. So that's why this investment income, or the interest income, is very low compared to the pension and OPEB plans, which are allowed to invest in equity securities and debt securities that performed very well over the last 12 to 18 months.
Okay, so the Fed lowering the rate, that effectively took us down, because we were 100K plus, 350K plus, and then 500K plus, and we're dropping.
Yes, so they had been.
Basically a checking account, is
Right.
that kind
Okay.
of interest, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Your
All
Honor,
right, thank you. Yep.
so I heard on the news that the feds are considering raising the rates. So how would that affect us?
In general, you could expect that to be passed through to your savings account, but it's not necessarily automatic where the bank passes that along. So, just like with our personal accounts, the bank will increase and decrease rates based on their own performance and their own forecasts. So, in general, a raise in the national rates will eventually benefit the city, but not necessarily on a one-for-one basis.
Yeah, because the banks are looking out for their own interests, obviously. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. I just want to commend Mrs. Marsh and the Finance Department. Director Kunath, thank you so much for this, and it's great to hear that we're doing so much better than other cities. It's been a really tough time for everyone, so everyone who did this, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, also from the Finance Director, we have a report. It's the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for fiscal year 2021-22 budget.
Yes, I'm happy to announce once again that the city's budget presentation has received an award from the Government Finance Officers Association. So this is an organization that reviews the budget for things such as transparency, accuracy, to make sure that it's understandable to the general public. We've been receiving this award, my goodness, probably for 20 years. It is no small feat. It is a lot of work, and I appreciate the Finance Department's help as well as my staff put this together every year. So 2021, which was the award we just received, was the first time that we tried to move to an online platform. So it's actually all online and transparent. You can go out to the website and see it. So with that, this is just council's presentation to myself and Linda. Congratulations, Linda.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Director Kunath. All right. We do need to actually take a step back, and we need to vote to receive and file the auditor's presentation.
Your Honor.
Please.
Move to receive and file auditor's
All right, thank
report.
you. Can I
Right,
get
yeah.
a second?
Your Honor, I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I think we've had it. All right, thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And thank you to the Finance Director for coming out this evening for those two presentations. We do appreciate everything that you've done. Next up, we have bid awards purchases. This is from the DPS director. No, oh, sorry. Okay, apologies. Next up, we have D3, which was added this evening, which is, oh, I'm sorry. I'm totally looking at the wrong thing. My apologies. I'm jumping right ahead. Report. Finance director, okay. Finance director, the unused mayor's defined benefit or defined contribution plan. Wow, I'm really out of it. Go.
Yeah. So the Municipal Employees Retirement System manages the defined contribution pension plan for the full-time city general employees. Multiple divisions were originally set up when we moved to this plan, and MERS is now requesting that we formally close one unused division, which was set up and never used. It was Division 110039, and they require city council approval for us to do that administrative action. So if I can get a approval of that.
All right, what is the wish of council?
Your Honor, I move that we close unused Division 110039.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Your Honor, I'll second.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have a report from the city manager, the Oakland County Nature Center lease agreement amendment.
On October 1st of 2012, the City of Madison Heights entered into a 25-year agreement with the Oakland County to operate the Madison Heights Nature Center, which is located at 30300 Hell Street. This agreement included provisions for the operations and land use and had the details for improvement and capital needs. Under the terms of this agreement, Oakland County is responsible for all operational and capital improvements and is responsible for paying for the first $5,000 per project, after which the city and Oakland County split the rest of the cost at 50%. On November 3rd of 2020, voters in Oakland County passed the Oakland County Parks and Recreation millage. This millage allows the county to proceed with deferred maintenance and construction projects to refresh existing facilities and provide new options to meet the current and future needs of the park. Last January, representatives from Oakland County forwarded their anticipated project list to the city, which included over $800,000 of needed improvements to the Nature Center. As a result of these meetings, we negotiated a change in this capital improvement language. Under the proposed amendment, Oakland County would be responsible for paying still the first $5,000 per project, repair, or improvement to the land, and in addition, all costs associated with maintenance, repairs, or improvements, including those that are in accordance with the master plan. Anything that exceeds $5,000 will then still be split 50-50. However, the city's cost will be capped at $50,000 per year. This will allow Oakland County to move forward with their planned improvements while offering budget stability for the city. A change in this language necessitated an amendment to the original lease agreement. Therefore, the city and county used this opportunity to clean up the language to cover how it's actually operating and to extend this agreement for a new 25-year term based on the positive, beneficial nature of this agreement for Oakland County and the city. Staff, legal counsel, and I recommend that City Council approve this amendment for the 25-year lease agreement with Red Oaks Nature Center at George Suarez Friendship Woods and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign on behalf of the city. And we had a representative from Oakland County coming, but he got stuck in traffic, but I will be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. What is the wish of council?
Your Honor,
Please.
I move, pardon me, I move that the council approve the amended 25-year lease agreement for the Red Oaks Nature Center at George Suarez Friendship Park and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Your Honor, second.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor,
Please.
I was wondering if Ms. Marsh might be able to discuss the cost containment element on this, the $50,000. I think we talked about it briefly. How does that fit in with our past experience in projecting out what would normally be our cost? Is this containing our cost? Is this, I mean, how does this fit into your budgeting?
So the city typically budgets $50,000 a year for this. We only spend it if a capital improvement actually takes place there. But and last year Oakland County didn't have any, but we have quite a few capital expenditures that are needed there. So an HVAC replacement system is considered a high priority. Just as one example, that's $348,000. So under the current agreement, Oakland County would pay the first $5,000, leaving $343,000 to be split 50-50. So what typically happens is they come in January, early winter, and they tell us this is what we're doing the next year, and the city would try, then we would be responsible for budgeting over $150,000 just for that one project. In addition, they have office space remodeling, which is $165,000. Again, they would pay $5,000 and we would split the $160,000. They have site landscaping improvements for $40,000, and they need to redo the Nature Center parking lot, which is estimated to be an additional $300,000. So if the plan stays as is, the city would have to pay $416,500 to pay just our 50% of the upcoming projects. But we didn't get a Parks and Recreation millage for this particular thing, so this would cap our cost if they did that all in one fiscal year at $50,000, and then Oakland County would pay the additional amount.
What's the likelihood they're going to do that?
They're ranked fairly
All in
high.
1 year?
I'm not sure about all in 1 year. Corey Almas might know more about that, but it's going to be hard to do all these projects
Yeah,
all in
that's-
1 year.
yeah.
But it would still take 8 years for us to meet the $416,000 under the new agreement, and I'm positive it's going to be done within
Well,
8
it's still a
years. The
bunch of
parking
money we
lot's not
haven't
going to
got. Yeah.
make it that long.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Your Honor?
thank you. Yeah, please.
So wait, they decide what projects that they are gonna do, and then we just have to go along with it? I mean,
Well, we know what projects need to be done there. We are well aware that the HVAC system and the Nature Center parking lot, those
parking lot?
definitely need to be
which
done.
part of the parking lot looks bad? I don't,
Oh, I would have to defer to Corey to
I
actually
don't-
give you
I don't see that.
directions.
It's-
Yeah, please, Mr. Almas.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor. Thank you. Mr. Soltis, yeah, what they're talking about doing is making improvements just to the, as you walk or drive into the parking lot just off of Hales. The county is interested in doing improvements right to that parking lot and all the way up through the gate and around inside the entire interior of the parking lot. What their hope and intent is to do is to expand that parking area inside the gate to accommodate for bus traffic, so buses can get in and out, drop off and pick up, additional parking through there. We've had a great relationship with the county thus far. Since 2012, they've made some fantastic improvements there. They've come to the city, we've collaborated with them based on a city budget and what available city funds that we have. There's been some collaboration in that regard. But moving forward, as they've got, as Melissa said, they've got funding to do it now, so they're going to come to us and propose to us probably January, February, and say this is what we'd like to do with the funds that we have available.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Your
Any
Honor?
questions? Yeah, Mr. Bliss?
Yeah, just I guess a follow-up question on that. I mean, in order to get our capped 50,000 on the project, we're going to have to vote as a council, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So things like that, I understand Oakland County's desire to expand the parking lot to be able to enable a bus there, but for the specific use of Madison Heights, we'll have to be, I guess, we're going to have a little bit more information on that. Like, are we cutting into the actual, trail? How many trees are getting cut down to expand to a bus? All those things, that's not the topic we're talking about tonight, but my point is that we'll still be able to vote on each one of those potential expenditures as they come up, correct? Just as a clarification?
Yeah, I believe that's the case, yes.
Okay. So then for me, this feels like a win-win. If we hadn't succeeded in having the county eliminate effectively the double taxation of residents, where residents were having to pay for a parking pass in the park that was owned by the residents. We've since eliminated that, I think, 2 years ago now, correct? And so to me, this is just, instead of using the tax dollars that our residents are funneling through the city, it's using the same tax dollars that are funneling through the county and capping it coming from our residents and in our budget at 50,000 on programs and projects that we agree on. My only question after saying all that is what happens if this body disagrees on what project should be moved forward on? Does Oakland County decide to move forward with it without our $50,000? Or do we stop the project, or do we reprioritize? What happens when we disagree? Because we're talking about a 25-year extension on the lease agreement, so I just want to be very clear, because we haven't had a disagreement yet, but what happens when we do?
I'm looking in the contract because I believe that we actually are the landlord. I believe that we have to agree on that. Just like when they redid the inside and got rid of some of our stuffed animals that I guess they're not actually called stuffed animals, taxidermy displays. We had to kind of sign off on that.
Yeah.
So I will look and see what it officially says because I know it speaks to it in the contract.
Okay, I think that is a valid question. Yes, up to this point, we have agreed, but should they decide they want to remove our taxidermy or something a bit more significant, we want to make sure that we're okay with it, and that as the landlord, we own the property, and we can say no, should it come up.
I actually found it.
Okay.
It says that the tenant, so that would be Oakland County, must create a 5-year maintenance agreement plan, which is what they brought to us in January this past year, and a CIP plan for that particular site, which again is what we brought, and I included in the report. I just read off the items that were included for the Nature Center. With prior written approval from the landlord, that would be me, the city manager, that would be me, they can make improvements to the land. Such approval shall not be unreasonably withheld and shall be communicated to the tenant, Oakland County, within a timely period after receiving the request. So we do have authority to approve it or not. And we have negotiating abilities with that as well.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bliss, does that answer your question then?
I mean, Your Honor, I think so. Perhaps we can just make this contingent upon the attorney's review, just to make sure that the language is clear, that it's our choice, and how that, that it goes back to this body on anything that's over, what is it, $15,000?
Yes?
Yeah, just making sure that that language is clear in an attorney review.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
Your Honor, I don't know if it's necessary, but I would be happy to incorporate, by reference, the comments, Mr. Bliss, into the motion. Dave, did you
Amendment.
second?
Mr. Soltis? Okay, so we have a slight amendment there, just basically having an attorney review.
Yeah, Your Honor.
Right. Yes?
Just having about 45 years' worth of experience generally in this field, I would just, in tenant relationships, normally what happens, it's a negotiated sort of thing. If there's an impasse on the thing, usually these contracts don't normally break down on these things. There's usually a good reason why somebody wants to fix the air, fix the central air, fix the whatever. It's only when you get into ego stuff that it becomes an issue, and I just don't think Oakland County has that big an ego, so that's all. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's true.
All right, D3, report regarding vacancy for Mr. Gettings.
Oh. I'm sorry, this was the D3?
This is the vacancy. So can I have a motion, a request from council to make a motion to declare Bob Gettings' seat vacant?
Your Honor.
Please.
I move that the City Council declare vacant the seat of Robert Gettings on the City Council due to his passing, and order that we proceed to fill the seat according to the charter.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Your Honor. Second.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries 5-0. The seat formerly belonging to Bob Gettings has now been declared vacant. Thank you. Next up, we have the bid awards purchases from the DPS director. This is a scheduled replacement of the one-ton truck 481. Mrs. Marsh?
The adopted fiscal 2022 budget includes the scheduled replacement of Vehicle 481, which is a 2006 Chevy Silverado Super Duty one-ton dump truck funded through the Streets Division. This truck has been in service for 16 years, and its replacement has been deferred several times due to budgetary constraints. The vehicle has a poor condition rating of 33 points, warranting its priority replacement. This truck is used for material hauling, towing heavy utility trailers, and as part of the frontline residential snow removal process in the event of a snow emergency. As with the other vehicles recently brought forward to Council's consideration, this truck is being considered for purchase rather than lease due to the trial nature of our relationship with the leasing program. Staff and I therefore recommend that Council award the purchase of one GMC 3500 chassis to Todd Wenzel Buick GMC of Westland, Michigan, in the amount of $31,594 under the Oakland County Cooperative Purchasing Bid. The dump body and fitting from Truck and Trailer Specialties of Howell, Michigan, is an additional amount of $29,125 under the Rochester Hills Cooperative Purchasing Event, and one 8.5-foot Western plow to NBC Truck Equipment in the amount of $7,025. This represents a total finished cost for this vehicle of $67,744, which is $5,477 over the budgeted amount. Staff therefore also requests that Council consider a budget amendment of $5,744 to account 101-446-9850 to cover this overage. This would require two motions, and the budget amendment would require supermajority, which tonight would be unanimous.
All right, thank you. So if we want to proceed with this, we need to make two motions. So first, I'll ask if council wants to make a motion to amend the budget.
Your Honor,
Mr. Bliss?
I move that we amend the budget, $5,744 transferred to account 101-446-9850-000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Your Honor, I'll second.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, just a reminder, this would need to be unanimous in this case to pass. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And then we have the second part of that. What is the wish of council?
Your Honor,
Mr. Bliss?
this one's considerably harder. Your Honor, I move that we award the purchase of one GMC 3500 chassis to Todd Wenzel Buick GMC of Westland, Michigan, in the amount of $31,594 under the Oakland County Cooperative Purchasing Bid, as well as the dump body and fitting to Truck and Trailer Specialties of Howell, Michigan, in the amount of $29,125 under the Rochester Hills Cooperative Purchasing Bid. And finally, one 8.5-foot Western plow to NBC Truck Equipment in the amount of $7,025.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Your Honor? Well done, Mr. Bliss, under pressure. I support that motion.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor, I
Please.
just want to ask a quick question. So when he mentions chassis, is that including the engine?
One would hope.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, that includes the engine.
Okay, so then, what do you guys do with that old truck? You just put it out the pasture? I mean, what?
No, we sell the old vehicles on, there's an online auction that we've done quite well. We sell the motor pool sells the DPS fleet, the unused fleet are the ones that we're done with. The same thing with the police fleet, and then just passenger vehicles too that the city owns.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against say no. Motion carries 5-0. Next up, we have under G1, the ordinances. This is the second reading for ordinance 2174, the zoning text amendment 21-10, restaurants with drive-through takeout. Mrs. Marsh?
Yes, ordinance 2174 zoning text amendment allows drive-through and takeout restaurants as a principal use within business, industrial, and high-rise zoning districts. The proposed amendment removes the requirement that restaurants be primarily devoted to serving food on premises, thereby allowing restaurants that largely depend upon drive-through and takeout service. Further, staff proposes an amendment to require special use approval for drive-through restaurants within the boundaries of the DDA district. The proposed amendments apply to restaurants in the B1, B2, B3, M1, M2, and HR zoning districts. Additional minor amendments are proposed for grammatical and formatting purposes and align the proposed language with previously approved modifications pertaining to outdoor seating. The Planning Commission has reviewed this text amendment and, following a public hearing on October 19th, 2021, recommends approval of the text amendment as presented. Therefore, staff recommends that City Council approve this on second reading.
Thank you. What is the wish of council?
Your Honor,
Mr. Bliss?
I move that we adopt ordinance 2174 on second reading.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Your Honor.
Mayor Pro Tem Corbett?
Support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those against say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we have approval of the regular city council meeting minutes from November 8th. What is the wish of council?
Your Honor, move that the council approve the regular meeting minutes from November the 8th as printed.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Your Honor, I'll second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All against say no. Motion carries. Thank you. And that concludes the regular meeting. I invite council to closing comments, starting with Mayor Pro Tem Corbett.
Actually, I had a few items for this evening, but candidly, I'm just not, this isn't the night for that. I just wanted to say a couple things about my friend Bob Gettings. It occurred to me the other evening, I actually met Bob 50 years ago. It was either in the fall of '71 or early winter of 1972. We were, from the Recreation Department, he was representing, we were working on the Madison House project, which is one of those things that's kind of lost to the archives of history now. But I do remember he was very eager to help, very interested in helping young people. And I think at the time I was probably the only one in the city who didn't know who Bob Gettings was. And I quickly came up to speed. My brother called me the next day after Bob died, and he has known Bob all of his life. He was Coach Bob to him back 40 years ago when my brother went through the city football and baseball leagues and all that, and Bob was very active and involved. So he was a good man, and certainly, you know, regardless of whether you supported him, didn't support him, whatever, he was a good guy. He was the same guy today as he would be tomorrow, as he was 2 weeks ago. He didn't come with an agenda. So I'm going to miss you, Bob. Godspeed, my friend. That's all.
Thank you. Councilman Bliss?
Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, as Mayor Pro Tem Corbett said, Bob Gettings was a great guy, and he was always the same. I had the fun distinction of having both beat Bob Gettings and lost to Bob Gettings. And he was the same gentleman, whether he won or lost, whatever his role was, however he was serving the community. He did it with honor and with dignity and with a passion for the city, and particularly the city's youth. I actually met Bob Gettings through JC functions when I was a kid. You know, he and my dad knew each other a long time ago, and you know, it was great being able to spend some time on council with him. You know, being able to give him some tech support before some meetings, and I heard a lot of great stories about Madison Heights and its history, and just some really phenomenal stats. Not just about that, actually, about literally any sports team you can think of. Bob Gettings was a an almanac. Whatever radio question you could think of, Bob Gettings knew the answer to all of it. And so my thoughts and prayers are with his family in this difficult time. Anytime that something happens this sudden, the family needs as many thoughts, prayers, hugs, and as much support as we can give them. So I'd encourage the public to reach out on the Hopcroft funeral website where the obituary is. There's actually a tribute wall. So if you have memories, if you want to share, your memories, your thoughts of just love and support of a great man who will surely be missed in the community, I'd encourage you to do that. That's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anything from the attorney this evening?
I'd like to read a statement from Larry and Jeff Sherman regarding the passing of Bob Gettings. We have been friends and colleagues of Bob's for decades. His entire life was devoted to the city of Madison Heights. Bob's mother, Evelyn, worked for the Madison Heights Recreation Department for many years. Bob followed in her footsteps and also worked for the Recreation Department for 30 years. After his retirement, Bob served on the Madison School Board and then on the Madison Heights City Council, where we had the privilege of sitting next to him at the council table for many years. Bob loved the city of Madison Heights, and he would only support those issues that he believed were in the best interest of the city and its residents. We shared Bob's love of sports and enjoyed our numerous conversations with him about the local teams and teams in our great state. Our hearts go out to Bob's family, especially his cousin Barb Castle, who was a great help to him for so many years. Bob will be deeply missed by us and all who knew him. Rest in peace, Bob.
Thank you. Mrs. Marsh?
Thank you. It was hardly a week went by that I didn't talk to Bob 4 or 5 times a week. And most of those conversations started with these obscure Olympic trivia questions that I never knew the answer to. And I never one time stumped Bob back, even though I was on Google always trying. I'm definitely going to miss him. Sitting here now, I can hear him tell me, "Young lady, you need to recreate." So he definitely will be missed. I will think about him often, especially when I'm watching the Olympics. And I echo what Mark Bliss said, to go out to the Hopcroft website. But for those of you who might not be that tech savvy or want to pay your condolence visit in person, there will be a visitation for him at Hopcroft Funeral Home. It will be Monday after Thanksgiving, November the 29th from 2 to 8, and then Tuesday, November the 30th from 10 until the time the funeral starts at 11. The funeral is a private burial and closed to the public. So that's it.
Thank you. Clerk's office?
I just want to say I also echo the comments of the council members and City Manager Marsh and Councilman Gettings. He was always a happy and kind soul, and always had the best interest of the city at heart. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Fleming?
Yeah, I didn't know Bob as well as other people, but I do know his family member, Barbara Castle. And my condolences go out to the family and the friends of Bob there. From everything that everybody said, he was a great person here in Madison Heights, and to everyone that knew him. So that's all I really have to say today. I hope that everybody can go home and have prayers for Bob and his family, so they can, have good feelings and whatnot. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I met Bob 8 years ago when I first got on council. But then I guess he got appointed some later on, not too long after. And so then I got to know him a lot better. And this guy knew sports like you can't believe, down from the team to the person to the stat. I'm just like, who's this guy? He was phenomenal with that memory of sports. That was his passion. There's no doubt. So my condolences. He'll be sadly missed. On a little bit lighter note, don't say anything, but I was the Grinch outside earlier today. So, you know, the kids loved it. It's a great time. That's my third time doing it. Usually it's in the library, but outside. And so I couldn't wear my, just a side note, I couldn't wear my shoes because of those, you know, the little red socks or whatever that I had to put on. And so my feet were freezing out there, but it was, and then I got the bigger head instead of the scarier one for the kids, right? And because I just could see, I don't want, you know, someone crying and stuff. And it was bad enough, even with that friendly mask, that some were like, you know, and I'm like, you know, and I crunch down and kind of like do a high five, and then they're okay after that. And I always had to like straighten it out, but it was a good time. But anyhow, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Soltis, for providing some levity. And thank you to the DPS for the tree lighting. It was great. Really appreciated having the heaters out there and all the tents. I did hear that the people who weren't in front of the stage but that were over by the tents couldn't quite hear us, so just a thought for next time. But outside of that, it seemed to go off wonderfully. So thank you to everyone who came to that and who participated in that in DPS. Please, Mr. Almus, pass that on to your staff, that we appreciate everything that they did. I met Bob Gettings when I first ran for council in 2009, and he was a gentleman. And I didn't know a whole lot about him except that there was somebody else running with the initials RG. And he cared about the city. He loved recreation, and his heart was so in it. And you know, over this last year when I was appointed mayor and he came back, he loved being on council. He loved being a part of the team, and he loved just serving the city. And you know, we don't always agree. We all have our own opinions, and one day we agree on this, and the next day we disagree on that. And sometimes you sway someone to your way of thinking, but regardless of where he was, I always respected that he voted his conscience, what he thought was right. And he would have loved being here tonight. He would have loved being here for this event and seeing the Grinch without his shoes and enjoying the heat lamps and just being back in person. A lot of us last year really missed having the tree lighting, and he was one of those people. You know, every time something had to get canceled, he would call me and he would say, "Can't we do this? You know, isn't there a way?" And you know, we all felt that way, but he always made that call. Can't we do something? And so this year, I think as much as I was looking forward to this and as much as the kids were looking forward to it, I don't think that anyone on council was looking forward to the tree lighting as much as he did. But I know that he's with us in spirit and he's watching over, and I'm going to give the closing comments that he would give tonight. And he would say, Director Almus, please pass that on to your staff. Thank you to everybody who came out, and enjoy the holidays and remember to recreate. So on that note, the time is 8:28. Our next meeting will be December 13th. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night.